When you look at the AFC East, a lot of primetime games in that division. You have the Bills, the Jets, the Dolphins, the Patriots, all marquee teams heading into this regular season. After you saw last night's schedule, and you've gotten a chance to kind of break things down here, do you have any revised thoughts on these teams' win totals, with Buffalo leading the way at 10.5?
I just think the Jets are closer to Buffalo in terms of talent. But when you go over Buffalo's draft and just reading between the lines, I think this Dalton Kincaid kid that they drafted as a tight end is going to be more of an F. Line him up outside. They'll keep Dawson Knox at tight. I think they're going to be a 12 team, one back, two tight ends. And when you go over their draft, they hit every need that I see that they needed. They drafted the Cyrus Torrance kid, the kid from Louisiana Lafayette who transferred to Florida, the guard. They needed more physicality inside. They drafted, the linebacker from Tulane, Doran Williams, and then they drafted Kincaid. So that they hit everything they needed to, because if they're going to be better than the Jets, they got to be able to play with more physicality in their offensive line. They can't rely on this big guy named Josh Allen to run the ball. So I think that's a little closer. I don't know why there's a one-game gap. Obviously, the Jets have to prove themselves with Rodgers. Miami's the enigma because of the health of Tua. I think Vic Fangio will make a huge difference getting Jalen Ramsey down there, and especially where they can roll the coverage to Xavier Howard now. He's been a liability for them. I think that's going to be interesting. And I think New England had a really good draft, and I think that they're going to have to prepare quickly. One of the things that hurt New England last year is they lost to Chicago was their inability to handle six-back offense, the quarterback movement plays. And now they've got, they drafted a little bit towards that. The kid they drafted from Sacramento, is a kind of a big safety linebacker. They've kind of gone through their offseason that way. And so they're going to get tested right away with a really good Philadelphia team. So, obviously week one doesn't determine the season, but the scheduling is hard because the AFC has a lot of good quarterbacks, and then they play the NFC East.
The New York Jets schedule is really interesting. I know we've been putting up the schedules for the viewing audience there, and what's up? We see you guys over on the DraftKings Network and YouTube TV and every other platform that you can go ahead and view us. But for the listening audience, I wanted to read off the New York Jets' first 6 weeks, because this is kind of what we could see coming once they traded for Aaron Rodgers. You knew the league, with these trendy teams that everybody is excited about that have put together a new quarterback, they like to put them in primetime early on and get those really good matchups right off the bat to create that excitement throughout the offseason. Week 1, they host the Buffalo Bills Monday Night Football. Week 2, at Dallas. Week 3, host New England. Week 4, Sunday Night Football hosting Kansas City. Week 5, at Denver. Tough trip going from New York all the way to the altitude. And then Week 6, you host the Philadelphia Eagles. Then you get your bye week. It's not out of the realm of possibility, Michael, that they could lose 4 games in those first 6 weeks. Now, they could win 4, but this is a really, really tricky start to the season for the Jets.
Look, the Jets are going to – every team in the AFC, the Patriots' opening schedule is hard too. I think everybody's got hard schedules because they're playing against – you got the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFC you're playing against in Dak and Hurts, and then you're playing, the AFC opponents. So there's no gimme putts, and then they've got the Chargers, out there, and, that'll be a challenge. Every schedule you look at is what quarterback am I playing against, So when you take it, okay, the Jets, they face Josh Allen, Dak Prescott, Mac Jones. Okay, there's a break, but maybe Mac Jones is better. Then we go Mahomes. Then we got Russell Wilson, maybe a break. Then we got Hurts, and then we have a bye. And then we come back against the Giants. It's a home game, but, okay, Daniel Jones, maybe a break. Herbert, not a break. Garoppolo. Then you go back to Josh Allen. So it's hard. It's going to be hard. And the fact they play Miami in the second half of the season might be a benefit because we don't know where Tua is going to be at that point. Will he be healthy? Is he going to be okay? We hope so, but who knows?
And one thing with the Jets schedule, at the end, they end their last 4 games, 3 road games. So 3 of their last 4 away from the Meadowlands. Their final 2 at Browns, at Patriots on the road as well. So if they don't win that division and they have to go into the playoffs road throughout, you already have 2 road games to end the season. That's going to be very, very difficult to get to a Super Bowl, which are the expectations in New York. Yeah. Quick note on you wanted to make a point here?
Well, but I think the 2 road games, one thing about Rodgers, if Tua would have had at Cleveland, at New England to end his season, I would say, wait a minute, that's not a good way. Rodgers is so used to playing in cold weather, I don't think it's going to affect him.
Yeah, no, the weather's not going to affect him at all. It's just maybe just the being out of your routine and the rigors of the road and all that stuff. But once you get to that point, maybe those games aren't as tough as it all seems right now. Buffalo, they end the season rather tough as well here because you go all the way for Buffalo's schedule from week 11 on, hosting the Jets, at the Eagles, bye week at the Chiefs, host Dallas, at the Chargers, host New England, at Miami. That could be tricky for the Bills as well to end the season, where the Bills, like you said, you think the Jets are a little closer to this team than the market is indicating. Maybe if they don't get off to a good start, it could be trouble on the horizon for Buffalo.
Well, and Buffalo's got a little bit more continuity than the Jets. That's what makes the Jets' start of the season so important. They've got to be in rhythm, right? They got to be able to. That's what worries me about like a young team like Green Bay. They're not in rhythm. They're there's a lot of moving parts. When you have a new coordinator come in, and Hackett and Rodgers kind of know each other, so that doesn't affect you as much. But some of these teams with a lot of changes, the start of the season, you got to be ready to go. You got to do a good job of preparing your team to play. Like that's a question. I know we want to get to the NFC East, but that's a question. Like the Rams. Can the Rams go through their non-practicing element that they do out in Los Angeles because they don't want to get anybody hurt? They got so many young players. How do you get young players ready to play if you're not going to practice?
Yeah, doesn't seem like that's possible there. And you look at the odds for the AFC.
That's what LaFleur will do, too. That's LaFleur's program in Green Bay.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.